we are. Welcome, everyone. This is the second webcast in the Voices from Gaia webcast series. My name is Mare Cromwell, and I am so honored to be hosting this series with some exceptionally gifted communicators. Last week we had Linda Shea speaking for the dolphins. Tonight we have Pamela Montgomery. We're going to have some other amazing people joining us in the next 6 weeks after tonight. The last session is on March 7th. By the way, people are still welcome to register. If you want to pass the word on to anybody, they will receive the recordings as soon as they register in for the previous sessions. It's really important for you to share that I work very closely with Earth Mother, Mother Gaia, and she has specifically requested this series so that the wisdom from other realms of great consciousness here on the planet are coming forward, and more people are learning and waking up to the wisdom of the dolphins, the trees, etc. A little note about these webcasts: I questions during the recording. Please use the Facebook group for those discussions. This way we can stay focused on what Pam is going to be teaching us. And it is my honor to introduce Pam Montgomery as our second webcast speaker. And Pam is known internationally for her work with plant spirit healing, plant communication. She has a beautiful center up in Vermont that I would love to visit at some point, called Partner Earth Education Center. I'm going to actually pass this over to Pam shortly and have her introduce herself more. But I think it's really important also note that Pam is founder or co-founder of the Organization of Nature Evolutionaries, and I'd love for her to talk a little bit about that and how we can join that organization and benefit from the wisdom of the people who are teaching from that group. So without much further ado, I'm going to close out this shared doc. And Pam, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more than what I just did? I did this very briefly.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. First of all, this is very exciting. It's like, oh, I'm so glad that we're talking about this kind of stuff. So it's great. It's great to be here. Thank you. So let's see. What do you want to say here about me? I've been like working with plants and being close to the earth. I actually can't remember a time that I haven't been doing that. Well, maybe my teenage years, those were like a big, you dropped into a hole during your teenage years. But the rest of the time, it's like I had the great fortune to have a grandmother that was very much a plant person. And she lived in the eastern hills of the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky. And so I would spend my summers there. And I got to be on the land. My grandparents were like, you would call them the salt of the earth. They were the kind of people like, I was a back to the lander. Well, they never left the land. So, they were just like these really down home, country people. And she was a super plant person. She was a big plant person. And the thing about my grandmother was she was really in relationship with her plants. And so she would go outside, like after she finished all of her work and her, the main meal was at noontime. So she'd be in the kitchen, like doing all that until, probably 2 or 3 o'clock by the time she cleaned up. And then she'd go be with her plants. And she would go outside and she'd be picking and pruning and doing this and that with her plants, but she'd be talking the whole time. And so I'd go up to her and I'd say, Granny, who are you talking to? And she'd say, well, plants are just like people. They need friends too, in her very Kentucky accent. And so what she did for me at a very early age was instill in me that the most important thing is that you're in relationship with plants. And that's what you do. And that's what helps them grow really well. And that's, and so that's what I thought all along was that, oh, okay, so this is how you be with plants. And so when I got to be older and an adult, I just assumed that's how it was. And then, once I got into kind of the plant world, and I realized that there's all these herbalists out there that actually don't necessarily do that. And you know, a lot of herbalists back in those days, not so much now, but back in those days were, you know, they were all book trained, and some of them couldn't even identify plants. And I was like shocked. I was like, what? You know what? You're not in a relationship with these plants. So I feel like I got a head start. I got a little bit of a head start because of my grandmother, because she really instilled this whole idea of relationship with plants. And so I took it from there and went much, much deeper with it, and started in my gardens. And, you know, I've always been an herbalist, so I come at it from the plant connection. And so and what I found over the years was that the plants, you know, it's like the old Buddhist saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's the way it is with the plants. When you're ready for kind of the next thing, they give it to you. They kind of hand it to you. And that's the way it's been all along, even till now. This is many years later, many years, 40 years later it is. And so it's just this amazing, I'm not sure if this is what you wanted me to tell about myself, but this is what's coming. So it's been this amazing journey with the plants and the trees, of course, in that, you know, each step of the way, there's like, you know, a new thing that they share with you, or a new thing they teach you, or a new thing they guide you. And if you just pay attention to them, then it keep, you know, your whole relationship, it just stays really alive and exciting and new and fresh. And so that's the way it's been for me over all these years. And it continues to be that way. It continues to be like, when I'm ready, they bring something else forward. And it's amazing. So, you know, I've gone through many phases with working with the plants and communicating with them and doing plant spirit healing work. And so working with the spirit aspect of the plants as well as the physical aspect of the plants. You know, and I live in Vermont and have a teaching center here in Vermont where a lot of this work takes place. And I travel all over the world. So, and I've written a book about it, plant spirit healing. So that's a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I need to ask you then, did your grandmother hear the plants too? Were they communicating with her?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, she was talking all the time, and and this is the interesting thing about her. You know, I was so young that I can't say that there was like cognitive information exchange between my grandmother and me, but it certainly came through osmosis. And a really cool thing happened a few years ago before my mom passed away. She and I went, one of my mom's older sisters was living at the farm, the family farm. And so we went to visit her, my mom and I, and it was the springtime of the year. And we went out and I said, you know, let's go pick some plants let's go have some greens to put in our salad. You know, my mom's she was one of the ones that it was like, get me off of this farm, get rid of my hillbilly accent. I want to go to college, you know, get me out of here. That was her deal. And, you know, I was the opposite. I was like, oh, let's go to the farm. And so we went out, we did that. We went out and we picked some greens and we came back, and my aunt, my mom's older sister, she started saying, oh, I recognize this plant. And she called them all by their local names. Oh, this is white top, and this is sour grass, and this is da-da-da. And then she said, Mommy and I used to go pick those plants. And I went, oh. And it was the first time that I went, oh, my grandmother really knew these plants. And she worked with them. She harvested them. She ate them. I'm sure she used them for medicine. All of her 7 children were born at home. So she knew the plants. And I didn't really realize that until my aunt said that. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I got it somehow. You know, I got it from her somehow. So to answer your question, I would say yes. She really knew the plants, and she really, you know, she said to me, you know, you've got to talk to your plants. You got to be in communication with your plants, because how else are you going to know them? So, yeah.
Well, I love it. It's in your genes. It's definitely in your genes. So tell us about the Organization for Nature Evolutionaries. I think that's really important for people to learn about tonight also.
Yeah, well, so this is an organization that you know, it was just kind of a dream that I had. And it was like, oh, this is a really important thing that we need to bring forward. And it has to do with kind of advocating for the earth and nature consciousness and awareness and all of that. And I kind of feel like one of the big pieces that's missing from, say, like the environmental movement or the green movement or whatever you want to call it, this kind of, you know, thing that's happening right now to kind of move us into like being more gentle and akin with the earth. But I feel like there's a piece missing, and the piece that's missing is our recognition of the sacredness of the earth and the sacredness of the plants and the sacredness of the trees and the sacredness of the water. And it's like we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this amazing nature that we live amongst. And how is it that we take up our place within it, because we are a part of nature. And so, you know, we've just kind of gotten separated from it. And so I felt like, you know, there's a piece missing here that we really need to bring forward in, like, how do we bring it forward that we're a part of all of this, and that we can work co-creatively with nature. So that's kind of how it began back in 2013. And we're just a small group of people that are bringing this forward. Even, I mean, we have lots of support people that are really loving what we're doing, but so it's really about, you know, advocating for earth rights. And that's not just on a political, you know, legal level. I mean, it can be, but it's also about, you know, just the rights. I mean, you know, I said to somebody today, I was like, you know, when I get up in the morning, like, and I go downstairs and my husband's, you know, sitting there and he's got his, you know, drink in the morning and he's already started the wood fire. I would never dream of not greeting him and saying, "Hi, honey, how are you doing? You know, how's your morning?" You know, that kind of thing. And the idea is that we treat nature, or the aspects of nature, like we would a beloved. You know, it's like our love. It's like, you know, the plants and the trees and the water and the air and the sun and the earth. This is what gives us our life. I mean, this is really like major. You know, we wouldn't have our life if it wasn't for all these aspects of nature. And so to not be in like on a daily level in relationship with nature is just kind of crazy. And so that's what we're doing, is really bringing this forward, the awareness and the education and ceremony and whatever it takes to bring people into awareness about the fact that we are with a living, you know, nature is a living being. There's nature consciousness. There's consciousness in nature that we need to be aware of every day, every minute of every day. And so to bring this forward and to be living in a co-creative partnership really with nature, you know, infusing the sacred in all of it. And so we have a really great website. We do, which is, I think you had the website up there in the beginning, which is www.natureevolutionaries.com. We do a great newsletter with great articles. We do great teleseminars that are free every month, and we have different themes. This last time our theme was Trees of Life, so it kind of goes along with what we're doing tonight. And our next theme is going to be Rivers of Life. And so, you know, we have all these great people that come and do our teleseminars. We have a great newsletter. We have great articles. We're also doing we're doing events. We're actually doing teaching events, you know, and we keep having great ideas that we're going to do. Right now we're putting together what's called a spiritual activism guide to kind of help people, like, what does spiritual activism mean? And when we use the word spiritual, we're talking about the vital principle held to give life, that which makes life live. And how do we do that? How do we have every single action, all of our actions in our life, everything we do, be informed by nature, to like take that into account? Like, okay, so we want to do this. Let's check it out. Let's check with nature and see, or let's check with the trees, or let's check with the water, or let's check it out. And so it goes into the whole piece of like, how do you communicate so that you can understand what nature's telling you? So anyway, we're excited, and we just continue to do exciting things and grow. And yeah, that's kind of what we're about.
Well, I say hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah to what you're doing there. It's very much in sync with my work. So people can go to that website and join on your mailing list and find out more. So
Yeah.
let's like go right to, for everyone who's listening, all of the people in this series, I sent them a list of questions. And so Pam received these questions some weeks ago. And I'll just start with the first one, Pam. And it has to do with, we seem to be going through some extreme times with tremendously damaging hurricanes, forest fires, more. And many are calling this the earth changes. So what do the trees and the plants, what do they want to share with us about the earth changes from their conscious levels, which is a very deep conscious level?
Yeah. Well, it's, I've thought about this a lot because yeah, these earth changes are, it's a part of what's happening for sure. And the thing about the plants and the trees is that they're very adaptable, and they have adapted for millennia, going through different kinds of weather and climate and, extremes, real extremes. And they survived. The plants and the trees make up 99% of all living organisms on this planet. That means they're successful. That means they have figured it out. They have figured out how to live on this planet and adapt to change, to a changing environment. And that's really important for us to really realize that, okay, so here we are. We're in the midst of massive earth changes, massive climate change. And, for anybody who says, oh, no, it's not really happening, is like, well, I don't know, they're walking around deaf, dumb, and blind or something. I mean, not that I'm passing any judgment. It's just like, hello, massive fires in California, massive hurricanes down in the Caribbean, flooding. Anyway, you don't need to hear the long list. So the plants and the trees know about adaptation, about how to adapt. So what I'm finding with them is that when we tap into them at that level, they are really teaching us how to adapt to these earth changes. And so that we don't, what should I say, suffer too much. I mean, I think kind of sometimes humans just kind of like, oh, everything's good, let's just keep on going the way we're going and everything's good. Well, it's changing all the time. And so, I can sit here and complain about the wicked cold in the Northeast this year that we experienced, not so much right in this moment, but I mean, we went to some really bad cold weather, and it was like, wow. And I can, moan and groan and complain, or I can say, okay, here we are. Help me. How do I adapt? How do I adapt to this change? And so, so it's on a lot of levels. It's on a physical level. How do we physically be more comfortable with this change? How do we emotionally be more comfortable with this change and kind of get with the program that, oh, it is changing, and how do we think about it? Do we continue with our negative thought patterns about it? Or do we say, okay, we're going to change. Oh, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for growth. Okay. And then of course, spiritually as well, is like, so I feel like the plants and the trees are like, they're the masters or mistresses, if you want, of how to adapt to change, because they've been doing it for millennia. Since day one, they've been changing, and they continue to change. They continue to adapt to our changing, to the earth changes and our changing climate and our changes. They continue to evolve. So I think they're the best teachers we have for earth change.
And you're hearing messages from them then about how to adapt emotionally too.
Oh yeah.
Could you share?
Absolutely.
I mean, is there anything more you could give us some details about that?
Well, we're so symbiotically related to the plants and trees. I mean, some people, might balk at this when I say this, but you know, we're much more related to plants and trees than we are to animals, to other animals, because we really evolved from the plants. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the plants. So they give us all of our food, all of our oxygen, all of our tissue. We don't make tissue from sunlight. Plants make tissue from sunlight, and then we eat their tissue, and that makes our tissue. So, you know, we are related to the plants, and we couldn't have our life if it wasn't for them. So that's, you know, on a basic physical level, which I think most people know about, you know, oxygen, like, you know, that's pretty basic. We do that every second of every minute of every hour of every day. We breathe. And when we bring it into conscious awareness, it's like, oh, you know, we have these other beings out there that we exchange breath with. Wow, that's pretty amazing. They're giving us our breath. We give them our breath. And so together we survive, even though they'd be fine if they did not have our carbon dioxide, because there's plenty of carbon dioxide out there for them. But so there's that, you know, we've evolved with them along a cognitive level. There's a whole piece in science right now that, you know, like, I don't know, 2.3 billion years ago, we're not talking million, like billion years ago, you know, there was a single algae that started to make decisions about, you know, inheriting certain characteristics and reproduction and all of that. And it was really the beginning of continuation of that species. So now in the science, what they're saying is that like what they would call higher mind or conscious awareness evolved from that decision that plants made 2.3 billion years ago. So even on a cognitive level, they have been part of our evolution. On an emotional level, so here's to answer your question. On an emotional level, there's this thing called biophilia, and biophilia is basically means love of nature or love of natural processes. You know, and I extend that to plants and trees. So this whole thing of biophilia. So now in the science, I actually love to look at the science, because I feel like, oh man, the science is finally catching up with everything that the indigenous people have known for a long time, and the old shamans and all that. But anyway, so this thing about biophilia, basically what they're doing is they're looking for the gene that they believe that it's in our genetic makeup, that because of our long time proximity, which that's not been so true in the last 100 years or so, but basically throughout the evolution of the human species, our long time proximity to the natural world, and our symbiotic relationship, meaning that we absolutely need nature in order to survive, in order to live, that because of that, we have in our genetic makeup, we have a gene that means that we absolutely need. It's a need. It's like that we need to be in close proximity to nature. We need to be close to the plants. We need to be close to the trees. We actually need that. And that particular need engenders this bonding relationship, this togetherness relationship. It's like, you know, you need your mother when you're born. You need to be close to a mother or a primary caregiver. Usually it's your mother. You know, you need that in order for your survival, in order for you to live, in order for you to flourish. We need to be in close relationship with nature, with the plants and the trees, because they give us our life. And so that creates a bond. That creates an emotional bond with nature, with, you know, all of that that's around us, with the trees, especially the plants and the trees, because they provide all of our oxygen. They basically provide our life. So this creates, so then we have this emotional bond, and this gets into like our heart connection and how we, you know, a certain love. And some would say that, you know, which I agree with this too, that there's this actual love that nature shows us or expresses to us, is this love. And when we express that love back, then that's, you know, that's what we were talking about earlier, like being in this co-creative partnership, being in this relationship where the plants and the trees are even go beyond being like partners or friends or whatever. It's actually your beloved. It's like you enter into this relationship where these trees and these plants are my beloveds. It's like, you know, I love them so much because they're giving me my life. And so you get this emotional bond with them, which then kicks in the whole, on a physical level, it kicks in oxytocin, which the release of oxytocin is it's a hormone that is produced in our hearts and the hypothalamus. But basically this hormone kicks in, and it's called the bonding hormone. It's like, it's what makes the connection. It's like, that's how we, on a physical level, we release oxytocin and we make the connection. It's like how we connect with people, we connect with ourselves internally, we connect with people, we connect with nature, we connect with animals, we connect with plants and trees because of oxytocin. So, so there's this really strong emotional bond with the plants. And so, and the oxytocin initiates what's called the restorative response. Very different than the stress response. The stress response is like the big S word, you know, it's the big killer, so some would say. But so it initiates restoration. And that's what we want right now. We want to all be restored back to the balance point. And so when you go and you sit with a plant or you sit with a tree and you make this connection through your heart and you feel this emotional bond and the oxytocin gets released and you start to do the bonding thing and you're like, and it's oh gosh, I get a little excited about it. Can you tell? It's like, it's so beautiful. It's just like, yes, of course we're in this together. Of course you're my beloved. Of course you're giving me my life. Of course I love you. Of course you love me. So,
And it's because, I mean, I actually feel energy waves from them that are very heart oriented, very compassionate, heart space energies.
Yes.
So give us some messages from the trees if you can. What do they want us to know? I mean, obviously they're very aware we're doing this interview, and I know when you and I did a prep talk conversation a few weeks ago, I could feel their energy coming in, like they were excited then about the potential. So
yeah,
that they would like us to be aware of.
Oh gosh, well, there's a lot. There's so much.
We could go for 3 days here, but we're gonna have to.
What's that?
We could go for 3 days here. We could.
I know we could totally go for a long time, but yeah, I'll try to like, you know, not get too far out there and kind of hone in on it. Well, so, you know, as I was mentioning to you, so, you know, we're really symbiotic related physically, cognitively, emotionally. And the other thing to remember is that, you know, the plants and trees, and this is, you know, this is well-known fact that they've always preceded their animal counterparts in evolution. So they've always evolved just before us. So for example, angiosperms, which are flowering plants that have internal reproductive organs, evolved before mammals that have internal reproductive organs, for example. Those would be the counterparts. And so now it's kind of like, okay, so where is our evolution now? Our evolution is really of a spiritual nature. It's really about raising our consciousness, and you asked me about ascension and all of that, kind of going to that other dimensional level. And the plants, again, it's like the plants and the trees, they're just preceding us in this spiritual evolution, which, you know, I would say includes this, you know, moving to the next dimensional reality. So, and so you can see this by, you know, I don't know, back in the 60s for sure, maybe even before then, but in this like how, like suddenly there was this big interest in psychotropic plants. So mind-altering plants, ones that change your brain chemistry and all of that. Big, and there's still an interest in that as well. And then there's like flower essences, which there's no chemical constituents whatsoever in a flower essence. It's purely the vibrational resonance of the plant. It's the signature of the plant, you know. And then now there's plant spirit healing, which is, you know, you don't even have to ingest a plant. It's really about your relationship and receiving the vibrational resonance of the plant, the gifts of the plant that live inside you on a vibrational level. You know, so there's this there's this awakening that that's what I look for, is like, you know, what are people like really moving towards? What's the kind of leading edge? What's the interest right now? And that's a lot of where the interest is going right now. So that says to me, oh, okay. So the plants are stepping up to the plate. They're doing, you know, they're moving into this spiritual evolution piece, and they're teaching us how to evolve our own spirits, how to raise our consciousness. And so I think this is a big part that they're sharing with us right now, is this whole piece of raising consciousness, raising our conscious level, so we stop destroying the planet. I mean, I think that's kind of the bottom line, is we stop warring with each other. I mean, to me, like, this whole warring thing is like, it's so archaic. Oh my gosh. And so, you know, I feel like the plants are like really showing us how to do that. And so one of the things, and I told you how, like, when you're ready, the plant, you know, hands you something kind of on a silver platter, really. So one of the latest new things in the last few years that the plants have started to do is plant initiations. And so this is where you work with one plant. I do it for 3 days. So it's 3 days of one plant. And these are common plants. This is not a psychotropic plant. This is a common plant: dandelion, nettle, yellow dock, you know, St. John's wort, mugwort, you know, sacred basil, very common, rose, very common plants, everyday plants. You walk outside your door and there they are. And so working with these plants. And so what's happening is that it's a ceremony. It's 3 days of ceremony with a plant. Every single aspect is ceremonial. And we make an elixir. So we put together different parts of the plant, you know, maybe tincture, infusion, flower essence of the plant, different aspects of the plant, put it together in what I'm calling elixir, you know, something that you ingest, you drink it. So you're bringing the plant into you. And we're fasting. We're fasting for most, you know, basically fasting. And so what's happening is that it really is an initiation. And so what that means is that a traditional initiation is, it usually was with young people in a village setting, and where the young people would come into their maturity. It's like moving away from, you know, childhood into adulthood, and being initiated into the tribe, and what it means to be a part of the tribe. And like, even they would take on new names and all that. So, but we don't have much initiation left anymore. I would say most people in the US anyway are, you know, we're a country full of uninitiated adults. We have not gone through initiation. So most of us, and I'm not saying that it's all gone, but mostly it's gone. So the elders are gone. The elders are dying off. So part of the plant's spiritual evolution, part of their spiritual evolution, is taking on the role of the elder, of stepping up to that elder place where they are initiating us into what it means to be truly human, which means a sacred human, moving into our potential as a sacred human, of being a part of nature, not separate from nature, and stepping up into and stepping into our place as an initiated human amongst the collective. So what does it mean to be able to be initiated into the collective, so that we can live with each other in a way that is sane and is not this crazy making stuff? And so that's, let's see, what was the question? I get off on tangents. I'm really sorry if I go off on these things, but I think basically you're saying, what are the plants saying to us? What are they offering us? And this is a big thing that they're offering us right now, is like initiating us. Their evolution is stepping into this elder place, initiating us into what it means to be truly human, like really human, being able to live to our full potential of becoming a sacred human, and taking up a rightful place within nature and within the collective. And the collective is not just the human collective. The collective is the collective that includes all of nature. So this is a big thing that they're offering to us right now. And I just feel like honored and so grateful that I'm able to participate in this type of activity with the plants. And pretty much everybody that's been doing these initiations are blown away by it, about how much they're bringing to us and how much they're teaching us through these initiations. It's kind of phenomenal. And so I think that's a big piece, you know. And
give some examples of what they're teaching you.
Oh gosh, it depends. Let's see. I was just out in California, and we worked with redwood, of course, big one out there. And redwood, of course, magnificent tree, as you know. And yeah, so redwood has so much to do with, you know, heaven and earth connections. And so one of the things is that, you know, the trees are like antennas. You know, they got these big antennas going up into the cosmos and into the multiverse, you know, not just the universe, but the multiverse. And then they've got these roots that go down into the earth. So they're not only are they have this network of communication throughout the earth, and redwoods especially. I mean, redwoods are such, talk about being a part of the collective and like the unit, you know, they're such a community oriented tree. I mean, they grow in communities. You know, when you see redwoods, you know, there's not just one redwood, there's like a bunch of little redwoods all connected, and this group of redwoods here is connected to that group of redwoods over there. And so they're very community oriented, very tribally community oriented. So there's that part, but then there's also this connection to the cosmos and with their antennas. And so one of the things that they're telling us, communicating with us, is that you know, there's cosmic forces out there. There's, you know, and up until recently, kind of the message has been, you know, okay, things are not so great here. I don't know about these humans. I don't know. They're kind of like, I'm not sure. But more recently, since more of us are coming on board and more of us are waking up and, you know, stepping up, you know, the message now that the trees are sending out is like, okay, things are good. Like we're doing better here. And what they're receiving from the cosmic forces are like, oh, good. Okay, great. We're glad to see things are doing better there. Okay, great. We can probably give some help now. You know, okay, we can help you out down there now a little bit more. So it's this two-way communication that's the redwoods. The redwoods are one of the trees that's doing this two-way communication with the cosmic forces, which then they can transmit to us. And basically the message right now is, we're here to help you. We're going to help you out now because it looks like you're deserving of help. So we're going to help you out now. And part of that help, okay. All right. I know I'm talking at top speed, but that's because there's a lot to say. So one of the other things to like bring in here is that the original Trinity. So the trees, especially redwood, but some of the others too, and the other plants, is that my humble understanding is that there's plants and trees, there's nature spirits, so elemental beings, nature spirits, which really tend to the plants and the trees and do a lot of tending, you know, to nature. And then there's humans / animals. So there's the animal kingdom, so to speak. So there's us and the animals. And so there's these, they would be referred to as the three mother worlds. And I would refer to them as the original Trinity. And so plants and trees have been holding down the fort for a very long time. They've been like taking care of stuff. They've been making sure that the biosphere maintains a certain level so that that's oxygen rich so that life can continue. The nature spirits, you know, have kind of gone into hiding, you know, in some places, not everywhere, you know, there's places you go and they're just, the nature spirits are just so alive and it's really wonderful when you're in one of those places. But, you know, there's other places where they're like, I'm out of here, you know, they've kind of gone into hiding. And then I kind of say like, you know, humans kind of fell off the cart a long time ago. Whereas, you know, and animals, you know, not so much. I mean, animals are not so, not like we, especially wild animals. I would say that domestic animals might still have a little work to do, but wild animals are still here. So it's like, here we are, like, you know, working with the trees and the plants, the nature spirits, and we're what they're bringing to us, what they're teaching us is, you know, kind of bringing us back into the fold, like coming back into this trinity of taking up our rightful place within nature again, as being in, you know, being in this. I mean, we're different beings, and yet together we create this amazing life here on this planet when we're really together in communication and in co-creative partnership. So that was kind of a lot to answer that question, but
yeah, well, it's fascinating. And just for everyone listening, we will have Penny Kelly teaching and speaking for the nature spirits in a few weeks. So
yeah, I saw that you were going to have her. That's great.
yeah, so we're going to be bringing in those energies and that wisdom in a few weeks. This is so fascinating. So it's interesting how you're getting the message from the redwoods that they see that we've gone through a transformation or a transition, and that we're in a different place now as humans than we were, say, I don't know, a few years ago.
Right.
Sounds like they have more hope for us, which is like.
Well, it is very hopeful right now, actually. You know, it's like, I mean, you know, don't read the newspaper, because then you kind of get depressed. But if you leave out, like, you know, the mainstream media, then, you know, they really, what's happening, the other messages, the other media that we have, which is, you know, plants and trees and nature and all of that, the animals and all that, all of those messages are actually pretty hopeful, that we're actually, you know, more and more people all the time are waking up and are realizing, oh, you know, we're a part of this big life thing here on this planet, and we need to really engage, and we need to participate, and we need to, you know, come back into our rightful place. You know, and that's the other thing that I feel like there's a lot of bad rap about human beings, like that, oh, we're this awful species that's, you know, that's a flaw in the design or something, I don't know. And I'm sort of feeling like, hey, wait a minute, you know, we're a part of this. And what's happened, I think, is that, you know, we've fallen into some kind of amnesia. We've forgotten. And it's not that it's not there. It's not a part of us. It's just that for some reasons, you know, we've kind of, you know, can't follow the crumb trail anymore. Can't find our way back, you know, and so we're starting to wake up. We're starting to remember what it means to be truly human. So when you're working with the plants and the trees, what they're basically doing in my work with plant spirit healing, the basic two questions that get answered is, who am I and what am I doing here? It's pretty simple. And that's what they're doing. They're helping us to step into our true essential nature, who we truly are, without all the facades and all the masks and all the, you know, who we should be and all that kind of stuff. But who are we really? Who are we truly? And each one of us bringing our unique individual gifts. My gifts are different than your gifts, that are different than somebody else's gifts, but we all come in with gifts to share. And so here we are, stepping into our true essential nature, sharing our gifts, you know, being able to step into that kind of I call it the big holy heart, into that big heart space, which is the oneness, into that one heart space, and, you know, bring in our unique individual gifts. And that's what it's about. It's about sharing our unique individual gifts with all of life, and walking the path that we came here to walk. You know, we're taking up our place as in our true essential natures, walking the path we came here to walk, whatever that may be, sharing our gifts. And so I feel like the plants and the trees are really helping us to do that, to like know that, and to understand that, and to actually do that, to put it into action. It's not just thinking about it. It's like actually putting it into action. So
I'm going to ask you a question that wasn't on this list.
Oh, that's okay. I'm good with questions. Even if it throws me a little bit, I'm like, oh, I have to think about that one.
So what would, in all your years of working with plants and being able to communicate with them and hear their wisdom, what strikes you as one of the most remarkable things that a plant has shared with you?
Well, gosh, I mean, they share so much. Well, I mean, I guess it comes back to the heart. I mean, plants are so generous and so forgiving, and so, I mean, I'm not saying that some plants are not kind of like, okay, you need to do that. And I'm not saying that sometimes you don't get, I call it firm, fair, and friendly. Sometimes they're firm, fair, and friendly, but they're always fair and they're always friendly, but they're also sometimes firm. And, but they really have a really big heart message. And that's really where you begin in your communication with plants, is like, it's really a heart experience. It is not a head experience. It is not figuring it out. You're not going to figure it out. It's like they really, so one of the things that's so amazing about plants, there's this whole, vibratory resonance that they carry, and they're more able to fine tune their resonance to you than you are to them. That's in the science. That's actually been scientifically proven, that there's this resonance exchange, and that they're very good at fine tuning their resonance so that you can be, riding that same wavelength, that you can be on the same vibratory resonance with them. When you're on the same vibratory resonance, it's like, that's it, you're there. It's almost like looking out from the eyes of the plant, but it happens through your heart. And so these plants are like such amazing heart openers. It's like cracking your heart wide open. And so many people now are suffering from a broken heart for one reason or another. It's kind of heart-wrenching what's happening on the planet and what's happening in politics and all that stuff out there. And so it's heartbreaking. And so I think a lot of people are walking around with broken hearts. And so the plants are just really helping to heal our hearts, to mend our hearts. And so, and that our hearts are the primary organ of perception. It's not your brain, it's your heart. And so, to like kind of shift that way of looking at things and actually making decisions through your heart and making your actions, it's like your heart decides this is what we're going to do, sends that information to the brain. The brain's like, oh, okay, great. Sure. I can do that. I can carry out this. These are the steps I need to take, but it's your heart that makes the decisions. And I feel like plants and trees are really, one of their biggest messages is about get in your heart. You need to get in your heart. You need to be in your heart. You need to be in entrainment in your heart, in training with your brain, entrainment in your heart with them, with plants, so that you can be on this same vibratory resonance. And I think that is like super important, that we really understand that this is a heart experience. This is, true communication happens through your heart, not your head. And so I think that's super duper important message that they're bringing to us, and teaching that they're bringing to us, of how to be in your heart, stay in your heart, how to, and it's like, if you think about, oh, we got to protect our hearts. Oh, it's not about closing your heart down at all. It's that, there's other ways to bring protection to your heart. So I think that's one of their biggest teachings to us right now is the heart, is being in our heart.
That's really powerful. So Pam, I know that you wanted to guide us on a meditation or a journey.
Yes.
If you're still open to doing that, I think maybe this would be a good time to.
Okay. I don't have a clock in front of me, so how much time do we have? I know I've been talking a lot, but.
12 minutes to 9. We have less than half an hour left.
Okay. Okay.
So if you and I didn't discuss timing, but we need to wrap it up, and I need a few minutes right at the end to kind of introduce next week's. And so
okay, good, I can do that. Yeah, I'd love to bring everybody into a journey. So so I'll do a jump journey, if that's okay with everybody. And so okay, all right, good. So I would just invite everyone to, at this time, to bring into your awareness, bring into your heart, really bring into your heart a plant or a tree that you already know. Or maybe it's one that you had a dream about, or maybe it's one that, I know it's for most of us, I think maybe, unless we've got Californians that don't have to deal with cold winter, but most of us are living in the sleeping time of the year, the cold time of the year. So it's not like a lot of plants are growing in our gardens, but you know, our hearts remember the plants that are growing in our gardens. And then we also have all the beautiful evergreen trees. So like white pine is still out there, who's an awesome evergreen tree that's wonderful one to work with. So I would ask you, I would just invite you to bring into your heart, into your awareness and into your heart, a plant or a tree that you're familiar with. That's maybe it's a incredible ally of yours, or maybe it's an herb that you might be ingesting that you feel really close to, but bringing into your awareness. So just take a minute to bring into your awareness a plant or a tree that you feel aligned with or close to. And you're wanting to, in this journey that we're going to do, you're wanting to be open to this plant or tree helping you in whatever way you may need right now. There may be something that's up for you right now that you really need help with or guidance with, or maybe you're not, you know, you're confused about something, or you're just not sure, and you just need to help. You maybe need to be informed by the plant, or maybe you just want to make a connection with this plant. Maybe you want to just, you know, feel the merge with this plant, feel the energy of this plant or tree inside you. And that part of what you want to ask of this plant to perhaps gift you with is about maybe informing you or guiding you about living to your full potential. Like, how is it that you live your full potential? And maybe you feel like, you know, you're really kind of doing your thing already, and that's great. And yet there's always more. There's always one more level that you can grow, where you can grow in your spiritual evolution, perhaps. So, so you want to bring this plant or tree into your awareness. And then I would invite you, as you do that, to just take a minute to breathe. And as you're breathing in, taking a nice deep breath, and to be aware that this breath of yours is coming from your plant or tree. This, we would call it a green breath. This is a green breath. So you're breathing in the oxygen from this plant or tree ally. And that this breath really helps you make this very clear connection as you open your heart to this plant or tree. Opening your heart with gratitude. This is one of the easiest ways to open your heart, is to be in gratitude. So even being in gratitude for this moment that we have this opportunity to share together, to talk with each other, and to be able to move into this space of actually sharing with the plant or tree, bringing them into your heart, letting them inform you, letting them help you. And then we'll do a journey, and I will guide you briefly to a particular place we're going to go, and we're going to meet with your wise person, the wise person that lives inside you. And I know that all of you have a wise person that lives within you. So I'm going to take you there, and then your wise person will take you to where this plant or tree lives in their spiritual dimension, And so you'll have an opportunity to go there. I will just drum for a while. I'll stop talking. I'll just drum for a while. You can be there with your plant or tree in whatever way, in whatever way. And there's no, there's no expectation here about how this happens. It's just however you want to be there with your plant or tree, or however your plant or tree wants to be there with you. And we'll take a few minutes to do this. And then when the beat of the drum gets fast, that means you'll return into your body and be present then. Okay? So that's how this will go. Okay, so we take a couple nice deep breaths, setting clearly our intention, and then we'll begin. You find yourself standing in a beautiful woodland glade. There's a beautiful path that goes through the woods. And as you begin to walk along this path, you notice little wildflowers growing along the path. Pink ones and white ones and yellow ones. And then you notice up ahead that there's a rock outcrop up ahead. And you notice it looks like there might be an opening in these rocks. This fills you with much curiosity. So you begin to walk toward this rock outcrop. And the closer you get, you realize that there's actually an opening in this rock outcrop, and it actually looks like it could be an opening to a cave. And then you notice that there's light coming from inside. And of course, you know that all caves are dark, but not this one. And so you come closer and you realize, yes, indeed, this is an opening to a cave. And you step inside, and just inside the opening, there's a golden spiral staircase, spiraling deep down into the earth. And it is from here that the light is coming. The light is coming from deep inside the earth. And so you begin to spiral down the staircase, one step at a time, spiraling deep down into the earth. And the deeper you go, the lighter it gets, spiraling deep down into the earth. Just a couple more steps now on this golden spiral staircase. And you step off of the golden spiral staircase into this wide open cavern. And in this wide open cavern, the walls are covered in crystals. This is a crystalline cave. And it is an awesome sight. It just takes your breath away. It's so beautiful. You take in the expanse of this crystalline cave. And then you notice that over there, there's someone sitting over there. They seem so familiar. And this wise old one who's sitting over there beckons to you to come closer. And you do. And when you reach your wise one, this wise one says to you, "Dear one, thank you so much for coming today. I have missed you. And today I have such a special treat for you. Today we're going to go to where your plant or tree ally lives. And you're going to have time to spend with the spirit of your plant or tree. And you're going to have time to talk with them, or be with them, or play with them, or merge with them. You can ask any questions you want. And so now you go. You go with your wise one to be with your plant or tree ally. Okay, so I want to come back into our bodies, gently being gentle with yourself, and just being in gratitude. Gratitude to these amazing plants and trees, these amazing beings that give us our life. Perhaps the Facebook page might be a nice place to share some of these journeys.
Yeah. I was thinking it would be so fun if we had a lot of time here where we could have people really share. Please, everyone who can go to Facebook after this, please share what you experienced here with Pam. It was powerful. I want to apologize. We've had some technical challenges here, but it's cleared up. So all good now. Thank you for that. It was interesting. I'll just speak for myself. I ended up at this massive oak tree, and I thought it was going to be one of the silver maples out here in the yard that I love spending time with, and I do a lot of sacred ceremony under them with sacred fire, but it was a big, huge oak tree, and they gave me some lovely messages about remembering who I am. And then all this like ancestral wisdom. I mean, I felt like it was like a group of them in the spirit realms. It wasn't just one tree.
Yeah.
But I really do invite everyone to go to the Facebook page if you are a Facebook user. I know not all of you are, but be really rich to share there what you experienced with this journey with Pam. So we have just a few more minutes left, Pam. Are there any final messages that that you feel like the plant kingdom wants to share with us? And I want to also just quickly mention that when Pam and I spoke a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the term ascension, and she said that's not something that, you said, Pam, that's not a term you use very often, and I said that's fine, you know, but there's a lot of discussion and a lot of awareness that we're shifting from the third to the fourth to fifth dimension during these earth changes that are happening. And then you made the comment that the orchid, because when I was talking to you, there was an orchid behind you, and I said, well, if that orchid would like to speak during this interview, please, you know, bring the orchid forward. And you said, you made the comment that the orchid is a powerful fifth dimensional plant.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because, you know, again, the terminology is just like, oh, okay, ascension, whatever. And so I actually looked it up today. I was like, ascension, like, okay, let's get with that word and see about that word. And it was like, oh, okay, of course, that's what I talk about. Sure. You know, I just don't use that particular word. But, you know, with the orchid, I mean, the orchid, and I mean, I would say all orchids, because usually when you're working with plants, you're kind of working on a species level. But I happen to have a particular little orchid that grows here in my woods. And it's a small little orchid, and its name is Orchis spectabulus. I mean, that's its Latin name. And I'm like, oh God, I love that name. So this orchid, let's see, how should I describe this? It, depending on how you approach this plant, it'll either be there or it won't be there. And, so, and this has happened with me. It's happened with some of my students. And like, I know exactly where this patch of orchids is. I know exactly where it is. And yet you could go there when they're in bloom and you can't find them anywhere. And I was like, wow, what's this about? Like, what's going on here? And if you approach them in kind of your 3-dimensional reality, they're like, not there. If you approach them in your 5th-dimensional reality, they're there. And it's like, wow. And I'm not the only one that has experienced this. A lot of people have experienced this. And so then it kind of like alerted me to like, oh, this is a plant that has to do with entering into like this place that we want to all hopefully be, which is this place of ascension that you're talking about, this place of ascending into, or it's not that it's a location, it's a level of consciousness really, but
it's a multi-dimensional field.
What's that?
It's a multi-dimensional field. Yeah. It's another dimensional. And what's interesting, for those who listened in last week to Linda Shea, she talked about how when she was swimming with the dolphins, there was one experience she had where all of a sudden she disappeared to all the other people around her, and the dolphins disappeared, and she was in this other dimensional space.
Yes.
So what you're talking about is these orchids have the capacity to tune in.
Yes.
And to know the vibration that you're in, and if it's not conducive to them or a higher vibration,
exactly right.
High enough for them, they will vibrate out and be invisible.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so it's really cool. And it's kind of like, wow. So now it's like, oh, well, so if I can get at their frequency, does that mean I can disappear out of this, this dimension? It's like, oh, okay, let's check that out. So anyway, it's something, it's like, there's always more to investigate and always more to learn. But so yeah, orchids are a big one right now for that particular thing. So yeah.
Fascinating. Well, I mean, and Linda experienced it with the dolphins, and I imagine there are humans that can vibrate out into another dimensional field, and I don't know if I know anyone who does that, but I imagine it's possible. I mean, I know that there are Hindu teachers that
I was just going to say, I think some of the yogis did that, like maybe Yogananda did that.
Yeah. Or Ram Dass's yogi would bilocate. He would be in the same location,
right.
two locations at the same time. It's pretty amazing gifts. Well, I wanna thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and teach us. And I'm going to share a screen here and make sure that everyone knows how to find you. So Pam is based in Vermont, and her center is called the Partner Earth Education Center. And just reading about it, Pam, is amazing. You have a lovely spring that is, it sounds like it bubbles up near your house maybe, or the farm building. So she leads programs regularly. She travels. You were just in California. Oh my God, that would have been amazing to be with you in the Redwoods. And so please check out her work and her book. This book is so highly, highly recommended, and someone has borrowed my copy, and I need to get another copy, clearly.
How about if I send you one? How would that be? I could do that.
That would be such a gift. That would be such a gift. Thank you. And I do have my own adventures with plant communication, but not to the depths that you do, Pam. And this heart experience with plants is very true. It's so powerful when we connect with them on the spirit planes like that. And please check out her organization of nature evolutionaries. Get on the mailing list, attend the webinars that she's got. So powerful and so needed.
And one of the things I want to mention about that, which I didn't say earlier, that everybody might be interested in, because is that on March 24th, we're doing a global tree ceremony. So it's like you can go on our website and learn about it. But so this is something that we're going to do on the 24th of March, and this will just be in your community and gathering with your own friends or whatever. But we're going to make some ceremony and some prayers with the trees. So that might be something y'all be interested in.
Thank you. Let's make sure to note that in the Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So next week, I want to make an announcement now about next week. We have Mary J. Gedden, who is an amazing whale communicator and animal communicator. She's got one book out, and she's a contributor to another book. Her one book I love. It's Conversations with Granny, the orca whale, who passed last fall. Apparently Granny's still on the spirit planes here within these dimensional fields and still communicating with Mary. So Granny is probably going to be with us on the spirit planes next week. And please go to the Facebook page if you're a Facebook user. We can share about what we experienced tonight. We can make notes and comment about the healings we experienced. Some people had a miraculous, amazing healings from Linda Shea's teaching last week. And I think that wraps it up. Pam, thank you so much for this evening and the love from the trees. I was feeling them earlier today. I know they're here with us right now. This has been a joy to have you join us. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you. So thanks for inviting me.
Oh, of course. So thank you to everyone. We'll see you next week. Please join us on Facebook if you can.